My name is Bill Evans. I'm president of the Evans Group, a Dallas-based training and development consulting firm. My partner, Jan Lightfoot, and I have had the privilege of working with YPO forums and moderators since 1986. Getting the most out of presentations is Module 3 of a 4-part video training series. In Module 1, Jan and I discussed the fundamentals of forum and helped you establish a strong foundation on which to build your forum. In Module 2, we discussed how to get the most out of updates and how to structure meetings. Module 3 includes these topics: presentation coaching and forum protocol. Just like our approach to updates, presentation coaching came from the frustrations expressed by forum moderators and members. Of the hundreds of forums that we have surveyed, 3 of the areas that consistently receive low ratings are presentations, presenters, and member responses. The Presenter's Forum Guide was the first step toward improving presentations, but the real difference came when we added the coaching element. Forum protocol is behavior-based and provides a set of guidelines for member interaction that ensures a safe environment and fosters trust. Through forum simulation, you will sit in on a coaching session, a forum presentation, and the members' discussion. Jan, why don't you explain how presentation coaching works?
Sure, Bill. I'd be glad to. The complaints we hear most often about presentations are that they tend to be superficial. They're disorganized and lack focus. Presenters have unclear expectations. They tend to ramble and sometimes get defensive. We developed the Presenter's Forum Guide to help presenters organize their thoughts and then conceive the coaching concept to help presenters prepare their presentations. Very simply, the coach is a fellow forum member other than the moderator who walks the presenter through the guide and provides feedback on issues such as what background information is required, points that need to be clarified, and what handouts, if any, would help members understand the situation. Presenters often report that the coach helped them not only to get organized, but also to get in touch with their feelings about the issue and to identify the real question they were trying to answer. And the feedback from the members has been just as positive. Members report that because presenters are organized, focused, aware of their feelings, clear about the issues and the questions, as well as their expectations of the group, the forum operates more efficiently, more effectively, and at a deeper level. Forums also indicate that they can handle more presentations in one meeting. The coaching session takes about 30 minutes. It is frequently conducted face-to-face over lunch or dinner. Although not as effective, the coaching session can be handled by phone as long as confidentiality is assured. The reason we don't have the moderator act as the coach is because the moderator has enough to attend to between meetings, plus this is a great way to get other members involved. The coach also serves an important role during the presentation. Because of the coach's intimate knowledge of the situation and the presenter's feelings about it, the coach can prompt the presenter if important details are omitted and intervene if the members are overlooking the presenter's feelings, not focusing on the issue, or failing to address the expectations of the presenter. The coach can also act as a scribe, capturing insights and feedback from the group for the presenter to refer to later. Coaches are identified in a number of ways. They may volunteer, they may be selected by the presenter or assigned by the moderator. The coach may be determined by expertise, by availability, or geographic location. This is especially true in large chapters where forum members live in different towns or even in different states. Presentation coaching also provides the opportunity to develop or expand relationships within the forum, especially for members who don't know each other well. We recommend that the coach be used for all presentations, planned or unplanned, business or personal. In the event of an unplanned, spontaneous presentation, the moderator can act as the coach, using the guide as a prompt to help the presenter get organized and stay focused. Let's sit in on the coaching session for Art, who we met in Module 2. Art is facing a confrontation with his CFO and former college roommate, whom he suspects of embezzlement. In this situation, the member needed to present at that meeting. So the forum opted to take a 15-minute break to allow the presenter to meet with the coach, Murray, while the other members returned phone calls. Please follow along in your member's guide. While we're using a member presentation as the model, the same technique applies to spouses forums.
Art, I'm really pleased that you asked me to be your coach. I know this is a a tough situation for you, and I certainly want to do everything I can do to help you get the most out of your presentation.
Thanks, Murray.
Since we've only got 15 minutes, I guess we better get started. Now, I know that the nature of the presentation is going to be both business and personal, so what's the topic or the title of the presentation?
Oh, I guess it would be betrayal of a key employee and friend.
Okay. What are your expectations of this forum? What are you looking for from the group?
Well, first, I just want them to listen. I really haven't talked much about it, and I need to do that. But I'm also interested in hearing from those who have had similar incidents and how they handled those situations, what worked as well as what didn't work. I'd like the forum to help me generate some ideas for dealing with this problem. And while I'm interested in insights and feedback from the group, I'm not interested in 20/20 hindsight or Monday morning quarterback commentary.
So we would want to establish some boundaries with the group. I mean, you're not interested in looking back or being should on.
Precisely. I've done enough shoulding on myself. I should have seen the signs, I should have responded sooner, I should have been more involved with the numbers.
What, if any, obstacles do you anticipate with your presentation?
None that I can think of. I just want this to be constructive and forward-thinking versus a history lesson.
Okay, I'll make sure the boundaries are clear, and I'll step in if those boundaries aren't being honored by the group.
Thanks.
Let's try to construct a communication starter to help set the stage and get everyone into your frame of reference. How are you feeling about the situation?
I feel betrayed. I'm angry and hurt. I also feel stupid.
Help me understand what you mean by stupid.
Well, it's just that I don't think there's another guy in this room who would have let that happen. I'm embarrassed.
It sounds like you have a lot of regrets about not having responded sooner.
Yes, I do.
It also sounds as though you're embarrassed for the group to know about this chink in your armor.
Definitely.
Would it surprise you or help you to know that I have some major regrets along these lines?
Yes, it would.
I'm confident that you and I are not alone. How about if we start out by having everyone respond to this question? A major decision or action I regret delaying is...
I like it.
All right. All right, I'll be doing the setup, but this is where you'll pick it up, the background history. Why don't you walk through it, and we can capture the main points.
Okay. Well, as I mentioned, Lance and I were college roommates. I was a business major, he was a finance major. We played football together and we're in the same fraternity. We have a lot of history, a lot of good memories. Heck, we were like brothers. We even fantasized about being in business together. As we embarked on our careers, we went our separate ways, but we always stayed in touch. When I bought the company and attempted to turn it around, I called Lance and convinced him to join me in this venture. That was 5 years ago. Oh, the first 2 years were terrific. Oh, don't get me wrong, it required long hours with no time off, but we had a way of finding time to take care of ourselves and each other. We'd go to dinner, have a few laughs. Occasionally, we'd take a weekend and get away for some fun and sun. Oh, I have some great stories about our adventures. You think I ought to tell one?
I think the guys would love it, but I'm afraid it'd take them away from their focus. Why don't we save the war stories for later? We're 2 years into the business, okay? Why don't you tell me what was the time frame and the circumstances surrounding the shift in your relationship?
Well, it was right about that time, 3 years ago, when things began to change. And they changed for a lot of reasons. First, the business had turned the corner. We were profitable. Lance was focused on day-to-day operations, and I was focused on future acquisitions. I was traveling, he wasn't. That's also when I met and married Ginny. Our lives began to go in different directions, and, well, we began to move in different circles. Well, I was married, he wasn't. Besides, Ginny didn't take to Lance. Plus, his father, who he was very close to, died, and Lance really had a tough time coping. So we grew apart in many ways. But we still had our business connection, and we were awesome. I mean, really powerful. We can still pull it together when we're doing a deal. But as you know, our last acquisition was about a year ago, and it will be about at least another 12 months before we've truly absorbed that company into our operation.
Let me clarify something. The friendship part of your relationship began to change about the same time your business became profitable and you met Jenny, but the professional part of the relationship remained intact. Am I right about that?
Yes. But you know, Murray, I think we should leave out the part about Ginny. It's a separate issue, and I really don't think it's relevant.
I'm not so sure I agree with you. I think it's an important part of the background history, and I encourage you to leave it in. I wouldn't dwell on it, but I would mention it.
Okay, you're the coach. Oh, and also to say our business relationship was completely intact would be an overstatement.
What do you mean?
Well, as I told the forum a year ago, this last acquisition was a tough one. There were a lot of heated debates, and I never really felt that I had Lance's full support. I feel like I'm the one who pushed the deal through, and the jury, or I should say the board, is still out on that one. Only time will tell if I was right.
I see. Describe the circumstances that led you to believe that Lance was embezzling money.
Oh, I don't know. A lot of it is a gut feeling. You know, finance has never really been my strength, but it didn't matter because Lance was a genius and he was my friend. Numbers are important, but they were an area I didn't have to worry about. I relied totally on Lance. Now I notice that Lance is increasingly uncomfortable around me. He seems to avoid me in the office and rarely looks me in the eye. And when I try to discuss the numbers with him, he gets irritated and defensive. I've also noticed that he seems pretty tight with one of the senior members of our board. I look at the growth in our business and the type of profitability we should be getting with this growth, and then I look at the increase in the use of our line of credit. It just doesn't add up. Our dependency on our line of credit should be decreasing, and I can't identify where the money's going.
So when you talk about betrayal, it's more than just money, isn't it? I mean, there's more to it, isn't there?
Yes.
I understand. All right, now let's focus on the future implications and options as you perceive them.
Well, it seems to me there are three possibilities. First, Lance could be innocent and never know about the audit. Second, Lance could be innocent and find out about the audit. And third, Lance could be guilty. Now, in the first scenario, I wouldn't have to do anything. Nothing would change. In the second scenario, I'd be forced to address my suspicions, and I could lose my CFO and best friend. And in the third scenario, I would have to prosecute, and I would definitely lose my CFO and best friend.
What is your preference?
Well, of course, I hope he isn't guilty. I wouldn't want to prosecute, nor would I want to lose him.
So your preference is option number one, nothing changes?
Yes. Well, no. Well, what I mean is, I hope he's innocent, but I don't think I can ignore the obvious deterioration of our relationship. It's really awkward.
I understand. I think we're in good shape. Why don't you take a quick break while I put some notes on the flip chart?
Okay, thanks.
You'll notice that the coach avoided the temptation to get into the discussion. He didn't take up valuable time telling his own story. He only mentioned that he too had some regrets, but is saving the details for the communication starter. He didn't share his insights, nor did he provide any feedback. There will be time for that during the discussion with the entire forum. The coach simply stuck to his assignment, which was to coach the presenter, to help the presenter get organized, stay focused, and prepare his presentation. When a coach oversteps his or her bounds, everyone gets cheated. The presenter will generally feel talked out on the subject and cancel the presentation. The members are cheated out of the opportunity to be of service and the chance to get to know the presenter better. The presenter is cheated out of the feedback and support of all the members of the forum and instead receives input from only one person, from only one perspective. Before we sit in on this member's presentation and discussion, Bill is going to cover the last complaint I mentioned related to presentations and member responses.
Thanks, Jan. The complaint Jan is referring to is that sometimes presenters get defensive. There are two primary factors that contribute to this response. The first one we've already covered, and that has to do with unclear expectations. This occurs when what the members are providing is out of alignment with what the presenter wants from the group. The second reason presenters become defensive has to do with the environment and how safe they perceive it to be. There's a high probability the presenter will become defensive if any one of these elements are present in the meeting. Members listening without really hearing, members becoming judgmental, members giving advice, members interrogating the presenter. So the goal is to keep the environment safe. While this is primarily the role of the moderator, it becomes a focus of the coach, and it is absolutely the responsibility of every member of the forum. And the surest way to keep the environment safe is by observing forum protocol. There are four basic aspects of protocol. They include listen, accept, question, respond. The first aspect of protocol is to listen. Focus on the presenter's feelings first and the issue second. Too often, forums treat problems in a clinical way without regard for the presenter's feelings about the situation or his emotional investment in it. One of the best ways to understand feelings is through reflective listening. Use reflective listening to understand feelings. This technique is simply to reflect the feeling that you are picking up from another person and rephrase the content of what that person is saying. The great thing about reflective listening is that you can't get it wrong because the individual will either verify or clarify the feelings. Murray gave us a couple of good examples of this when he said to Art, "It sounds as though you regret not having dealt with this situation sooner." And also when he acknowledged Art's embarrassment over the other members knowing about the chink in his armor. Murray did something else that is very important. He didn't deny Art his feelings. Often our culture reinforces avoidance and denial of feelings. Without giving it much thought, we say such things as, "You don't really mean that," or "There's no reason to feel that way." Or we discount or minimize someone's feelings by making generalizations such as, "You shouldn't feel bad. Everybody has problems like that." Feelings are an essential component of interpersonal communications. The second aspect of protocol is to accept others without judgments. We know we're judging when we start shoulding, so don't should on yourself and don't should on others. Put your critic and your cynic on hold. Avoid projecting your thoughts, feelings, and motives onto others. Acceptance is the most critical feature and the most difficult concept of protocol to apply. It's covered in greater detail in Module 4. Always remember that when a member of the group has a problem, there's only one person in the group that has the answer, and that's the member with the problem. His challenge is that the fog index is too high and he can't find his way. He can't see his own solution. The role of the forum is to clear the fog. One of the most effective ways to do that is by developing the skill of asking good questions. The third aspect of protocol is to question. Ask thought-provoking questions. Questions that stimulate thinking and avoid conveying a feeling of evaluation or judgment. The only problem with questions is that the meeting can turn into an interrogation with each member coming at the problem from a different direction. Everybody's talking and nobody's listening. This approach can be frustrating for everyone as the discussion lacks focus and the presenter is constantly being pulled off track. This approach can also cause the presenter to feel set up, which undermines the safe environment we're attempting to create and maintain. One way to avoid group interrogation is for members to make a positioning statement before asking a question. Let the presenter know where you're coming from. Is this question coming from the voice of experience? Is it based upon a similar situation? Is it simply a clarifying question? Whatever your reason for asking the question, let the presenter know in advance. Avoid starting questions with why. When you ask someone why, you're challenging their motives. You put them on the defensive because there's a veiled criticism of what was or was not done. The fourth aspect of protocol is to respond. Speak from your own experience rather than give advice. We spend a lot of time giving advice, but most of this advice is ignored. And the reason it is ignored is because we weren't qualified to give it in the first place. We will never have enough information about the implications and ramifications of our advice when applied to someone else's life, when applied to an entirely different set of circumstances. We only know how that solution worked or failed in our situation. When sharing your experience, give enough information to make your point, but be careful not to lose focus and get off into your own story. Use I statements. Speak on your own behalf, not on behalf of the forum, and certainly not on behalf of all humankind. Avoid comments that start with, "most people believe," or "everybody knows." Be specific and brief. Speak in specifics, not generalities. Don't beat around the bush, and don't do airdrops of cryptic messages for the group to decode. Be brief. Avoid rambling. Don't repeat yourself, and don't repeat others. You can affirm someone else's point without having to put it into your own words. Let's return to the forum meeting and listen to Art's presentation. It's being set up by Murray.
Today, Art will be presenting an issue that's both business and personal. The title is Betrayal of a Key Employee and Friend. I've listed his expectations there. First, he wants us just to listen and be supportive. Second, he would be interested in insights and feedback from any of us who have had similar experiences. And third, he would like us to help generate some options for handling this situation. He doesn't foresee any obstacles with the presentation, but he has established an important boundary, and that is his desire to look forward, not back, to talk about what he can do, not what he didn't do or what he should have done. We'd like to set the stage by having everyone finish this sentence. A major decision or action I regret delaying is... I'll start. I regret my decision to drop out of college.
Well, I regret delaying the decision to give up the safety of corporate life and take that leap of faith into self-employment.
A major regret I have is my refusal to acknowledge my son's learning disability.
A major action I regret delaying is telling my father I loved him.
A major action I regret delaying is intervening in my brother's struggle with alcohol.
I regret delaying the decision to fire my VP of sales when she started dating the owner of one of our major competitors.
I regret our decision not to have children.
Since we had the chance to sit in on the coaching session, we won't listen to Art's entire presentation. We'll just pick it up right before the floor is turned back to the moderator to facilitate the discussion.
So the options and future implications as I see them are that Lance is guilty and I lose my CFO and best friend. Lance is innocent. He finds out about the audit and I still lose my CFO and best friend. Lance is innocent. He never finds out about the audit and nothing changes. Lance is innocent. He may or may not find out about the audit, but I attempt to rebuild our relationship both personally and professionally. My hope is that Lance is innocent, and my preference is to retain Lance as my CFO and recover our friendship.
Art, thanks a lot for your presentation. You've really given us an excellent briefing and a good understanding of the situation as well as what you want from us. Murray, thanks for outlining the expectations and implications. They'll help us stay focused. Will you also be acting as scribe for Art?
Yes.
Pat's offered to be our timekeeper, so please alert me in 20-minute intervals.
Okay.
I want to remind everyone of our decision to follow protocol in our meetings. The steps are posted on the flip chart behind Murray. So before I open the discussion, are there any clarifying questions?
I have two clarifying questions.
Art, when will the audit be complete, and do you have any preliminary feedback?
We only have 2 weeks, and the firm handling the audit is committed to that time frame. And no, I don't have any information on how the audit is going. In fact, I've told them I don't want to know anything until the audit is complete and they're certain one way or the other.
Sometimes embezzlers give themselves away. Have you noticed anything different about Lance's behavior? Anything related to his drinking or spending habits?
No. The only change I've noticed is the strain on our relationship.
Well, if there aren't any other clarifying questions at this time, I'll start the discussion. Art, I'm struck by the fact that you two haven't been close or socialized in over 3 years, yet you still refer to him as your best friend. Well, obviously, Lance is someone you truly value.
Yes, he is.
Well, I don't know why.
Whether or not he's guilty of embezzling money, he has no business meeting with the members of the board behind your back. I think you need to get rid of him regardless of the outcome of this audit. In fact, you should have fired him during your last acquisition.
Sounds pretty judgmental, Chris. We don't know that Lance is guilty of anything, including collusion with a member of the board. It's pretty common for a CFO to be talking to members of the board. I would caution all of us from jumping to conclusions, especially when we don't have all the facts. Also, I'd like to remind everyone of Art's desire to look forward, not back. And remember, we're not here to judge Lance's guilt or innocence. Art has a team of professionals handling that. What I think he's looking for from us is how to deal with the relationship side of this problem. Am I right, Art?
Yes, that would be most helpful.
I really feel for you, Art. I remember the agony I went through when I heard and then confirmed the rumors that my VP of sales was dating a competitor. I was Sandy's mentor and so proud of her success. And confronting her was one of the most difficult things I've ever done, and I didn't do it well. I was hurt and angry and attempted to shame her. After all, how could she have done this to me after all I had done for her? And in hindsight, there's no evidence to indicate that she acted unprofessionally or in any way compromised our business. Still, there's no question that her relationship with Roy represented a conflict of interest and she needed to leave. But I created some monsters that just didn't exist.
I appreciate that insight, Tony. I'm concerned that in my anger I may say some things I'll regret and won't be able to take back. Even if he's innocent of embezzling money, I'm hurt by the way he's turned his back on me. Well, I've taken very good care of him. I've negotiated a significant stock option plan before he joined the company. I've protected him with a golden parachute in case of a takeover, and well, I just can't figure out what's going on with him.
You know, I can see how hurt and confused you are by Lance's behavior. I mean, as I listened to you, I tried to see the situation from Lance's point of view. I tried to put myself in his shoes. As you talked about the period of time when the relationship first began to change, you talked about the death of Lance's father and how difficult that was for him. But you also talked about your relationship with Jenny, which excluded him. Now, if I were Lance, I might feel betrayed by you, certainly abandoned. I mean, as far as his position during the last acquisition, well, you've never been one to respect yes men. I mean, I'd like to hold up the mirror and ask if perhaps you took his disapproval personally versus professionally. I mean, maybe you're the one who's changed. I encourage you to talk to Lance.
Art, I have a clarifying question. Does Jenny understand how important the relationship with Lance is to you?
Well, she did in the beginning, but not anymore. I think she felt a little threatened and resentful about the good times we had as bachelors, but I doubt that she gives it much thought anymore.
Art, I know Jenny pretty well. You two have one of the best marriages I've ever seen. Whatever insecurities might have existed early on, I perceive Jenny as being very secure in her relationship with you. She loves you very much, and I believe would make an effort to include Lance in your lives if she knew how important it was to you. I encourage you to talk to Jenny.
You're probably right. I continue to act on some pretty old data. I probably do need to check it out.
Well, regardless of the outcome of the audit, I too encourage you to talk to Lance about the relationship. Because it's my experience that this situation won't improve and will probably deteriorate unless you get out in the open and talk about it. I mean, that was certainly the case with my situation, my son's learning disability. You know, at first I denied it, and then I got angry about it, and finally I ignored it, and I just pretended it didn't exist, and I kept putting Scott in these no-win situations. And I just kept pushing him and pushing him, thinking if he just tried harder, you know, if he wanted it bad enough, he could do anything. And bless his heart, he just kept trying to please me, and I was so unforgiving of his shortcomings. So when I finally acknowledged the problem and I talked to him about it, he was so relieved. You know, instead of putting his energies in trying to convince me that there was a problem, he could focus his efforts on overcoming his limitations. So we're a team now.
Art, I agree with Pat. I also encourage you to let Lance know about the audit. If you're able to put the relationship back together and don't tell him, you're on the risk of him finding out. Your secret could undermine the trust you're trying to rebuild.
I was hoping this suggestion wouldn't come up. If I let him know now about the audit, it would signal my lack of trust in him, and our relationship would be over for sure.
Now, I know a lot about conflict avoidance. But with my dad, it was more than that. It was also a fear of rejection. I wanted to tell him I loved him, but I was afraid he wouldn't respond or would crack a joke to ease his discomfort. I didn't think I could handle that, so I did nothing. I said nothing. I really regret that, and now it's too late.
You know, I think that'd be a good topic to add to our parking lot, conflict avoidance. I mean, we all seem to have our version of it. And Chris, I'm sensing that there's still some unfinished business relating to your dad. Would you like us to add that to the parking lot as well? Okay. Now let's get back to Art's issue. John?
There are multiple issues here. We've covered most of them, but there's another one that I'd like to address, and that has to do with your discomfort with the numbers. There are many CEOs who share your dilemma and do exactly what you have done, which is to hire someone they trust who has that strength. Now, I fell into that category until a few years ago when I became increasingly uncomfortable with my dependency on my CFO. I went back to night school. Well, I still have a CFO whom I trust and rely on, but now I'm an active participant in discussions about the numbers. The CFO is my advisor, but I call the shots.
That's a good point, John. Regardless of the outcome with Lance, I need to become more comfortable with the numbers and less dependent on my CFO.
As with most presentations, there's no quick fix or easy solution for Art's dilemma. Much will depend upon the outcome of the audit and Lance's desire to salvage the relationship. Let's step back for a moment and discuss group process, the behaviors we saw demonstrated during the discussion. The coach did a good job of preparing the presenter and setting the stage. The presenter was open, honest, and vulnerable. He did a good job outlining his expectations, establishing appropriate boundaries, and articulating the problem. The moderator did a good job making the transition to the discussion. He also picked up Chris's issue and did an effective job of both acknowledging and parking the topic without losing focus on Art's presentation. The members did a good job following protocol. Murray made an appropriate intervention when he called Chris on his judging behavior, as well as his failure to honor the boundaries Art had established. The practice of members sharing the responsibility for the forum experience is covered in greater detail in Module 4. The forum is just wrapping up Art's presentation with a summary. Murray is capturing the ideas on the flip chart. It's important that everyone participate in this go-round, even if it's only to affirm what has already been said. The summary go-round ends with the presenter thanking the members and giving them feedback. Were his expectations met? What's the take-home value for him?
I can't thank you enough for the opportunity to make this presentation. The venting alone was cathartic, but you've also given me a lot to consider. The monster warning was appropriate and timely. I will talk to both Lance and Ginny, regardless of the outcome of the audit. And I definitely need to become more comfortable with the numbers.
Art, we'll all be eager to hear how things turn out, and we'll schedule extra time at next month's meeting for you to update us. But how can we best support you between now and then?
Murray has invited me to dinner the day the audit is due, and I plan to take him up on it, as I'm sure I'll need to talk. And I'll catch the rest of you at the next meeting. Thanks again.
Supporting each other between meetings is an important part of the forum process. At the end of the meeting, the moderator, Lee, took care of housekeeping items. First, he followed up with members who had previously presented but have ongoing issues. John was given an additional 5 minutes to update the group on his brother. John and his family did an intervention 3 months ago. Next, he reviewed the time and location of the next meeting. Then he identified Chris as the presenter, and Chris has asked Terry to be his coach. And now the moderator is preparing to conduct process feedback. Let's listen in.
Okay, let's take about 5 minutes and discuss our process. What worked, what didn't work, and what we'd do differently.
The presenter worked. It was a difficult topic, and Art did an excellent job. His openness made it easy for us to respond. Also, it's a complicated situation, and he was able to bring us up to speed very quickly. He was succinct, yet thorough, and his points were relevant.
The coach can take credit for that.
He helped me to get organized and stay focused.
Also, the coach made an appropriate intervention when I became judgmental and ignored the boundaries Art had established.
Well, thanks, Chris. I was concerned whether or not you were okay with that.
Lee, we need to put you up there, too. You did a great job keeping us focused and yet picking up topics for future discussion. I also appreciate your sensitivity to previous presenters such as myself with ongoing issues and the opportunity for extended updates.
You know, I've been very skeptical, even resistant to the use of communication starters, but I thought this one really worked. Art, did it achieve what you intended?
Yes. I was really nervous about presenting this issue, and after all of you shared some of your regrets, well, I felt less vulnerable. But it was my coach who came up with the communication starter. Murray picked up on the fact that while I feel betrayed by Lance, I was embarrassed to talk to you about the situation.
I think we all did a good job. We listened and we responded, and we followed protocol, which is an important discipline for us. And I also like the room layout. Until we changed it, I hadn't realized how important it is for us to have eye contact with each other.
There's another important discipline that works for us, and that's what we're doing right now, process feedback.
Yeah, I certainly agree. That has helped me an awful lot, too. And there are two other things that have helped me a lot. Pat, acting as timekeeper. I don't think anybody even noticed the subtle prompts that you were giving me. Thank you. And Murray, thank you for acting as scribe for Art. I appreciate that. Having the expectations, options, the implications, the preferences posted on the wall, I think that really helped us remember our assignment. And capturing all the ideas over here on the flip chart helped us remember what had been covered. Well, what didn't work? Okay, is there anything else before we close? Nope. Well, we only have about 5 minutes left, so in the interest of time and in keeping to my commitment to start and end on time, let's use the one-word go-round.
Think of one word to describe how you feel right now about the group. My word is close.
Open.
Connected.
Grateful.
Enriched.
Affirmed.
Safe.
Fortunate.
In this module, we demonstrated how to get the most out of presentations. Specifically, how to assist a presenter in the preparing for the presentation through the use of a coach, as well as how to keep the environment safe and how to get the most out of the discussion by using forum protocol.